I'm staring at Mom's empty chair, the one she always sat in for morning coffee. Now it's just empty. Daniel, come down for breakfast, Dad's voice echoes from the kitchen. I drag myself downstairs, the smell of burnt toast hits me. Dad's trying, but he's no Mom. Sleep okay, kiddo, he asks, sliding a plate towards me. Yeah, I lie. I haven't slept well since it happened. We eat in silence. The clock ticks, mocking us with each second Mom's not here. Then Dad clears his throat. So, Daniel, there's someone I want you to meet. I look up, a piece of toast halfway to my mouth. What? Her name's Darla. We've been seeing each other. The toast falls from my hand. You've what? I know it's soon, but... Soon I stand up, my chair screeching against the floor. Mom's barely cold in her grave. Dad's face hardens. Daniel, that's enough. Darla's coming over tonight. I expect you to be civil. I storm out, slamming the door behind me. My chest feels tight, like I can't breathe. Dad's replacing Mom just like that. As I reach the end of our driveway, I hear a car pull up. A sleek black BM. Out steps a woman with bleached blonde hair and a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. Darla. My stomach churns. This can't be happening. But as she walks towards our house, towards my home, I realize it is. And there's not a damn thing I can do about it. Darla's been here a week, and it's like living with a stranger who's taken over my house. But apparently that wasn't enough of a shit show. Daniel, come down here, Dad's voice booms from downstairs. I drag myself to the living room, freezing when I see a guy about my age standing next to Darla. He's tall, muscular, with a face that looks like it was chiseled from stone. This is Christopher, Darla announces, her hand on his shoulder. My son. You're what I blurt out. Dad clears his throat. Christopher will be staying with us. He's part of the family now. Family? Is he fucking kidding me? Christopher steps forward, hand outstretched. Hey, dude. I ignore his hand. Where's he staying? In the guest room, Dad says, his tone warning me to behave. You mean Mom's studio, I snap. The room goes silent. Christopher's hand drops to his side. Daniel, Dad starts, but I'm already heading back upstairs. Daniel, Darla's shrill voice follows me. Don't you walk away from us. I slam my door, heart pounding. Through the wall, I hear shuffling in Mom's old studio, Christopher making himself at home. Later that night, I'm lying in bed when I hear a crash from outside. I rush to the window. There's Christopher, standing over the remains of my basketball hoop. Sorry, man, he calls up, not sounding sorry at all. I guess it was made of some cheap plastic. I clench my fists. That hoop was a gift from Mom. As I watch him swagger back inside, one thing becomes clear. This war has only just begun. It's been a week of hell. Darla's been on my case nonstop, and Christopher's been acting like he owns the place. But tonight, something changed. I'm lying on my mattress. Yeah, Christopher got my bed when I hear the lock click. The door creaks open. What the F? I start sitting up. Shh, Christopher whispers, slipping inside. It's just me. I squint in the darkness. What do you want? He holds up a plate. Brought you some food. Figured you might be hungry after Darla locked me in here all day. Yeah? Why ask? Suspicious. Christopher sighs, sitting on the edge of my mattress. Look, I know things have been rough, but I'm not the enemy here, okay? I snatched the sandwich off the plate. Could have fooled me. That thing with the hoop, that was an accident. I didn't know it was special. I take a bite, considering his words. Why are you really here, Christopher? He's quiet for a moment. I've been where you are, new family, feeling like an outsider. It sucks. Yeah, I mutter. It does. We sit in silence for a while, the only sound my chewing. Then Christopher speaks again. I'm sorry about your mom, he says softly. I never knew mine, but I can imagine how much it hurts. Something in his voice makes me look up. In the dim light, I see a vulnerability I hadn't noticed before. Thanks, I say, surprised by how much I mean it. As Christopher gets up to leave, he pauses at the door. Hey, Daniel, if you ever want to talk, I'm here. After he's gone, I lie back on my mattress, staring at the ceiling. For the first time since he arrived, I'm thinking that maybe, just maybe, Christopher isn't so bad after all. After that night, things started to shift. Christopher and I began hanging out more. At first, it was just small stuff, watching TV, shooting hoops with a new hoop he bought to replace the one he broke. One afternoon, we're in the backyard when Darla's shrill voice cuts through the air. Christopher, Daniel, get in here and clean this mess. I roll my eyes. God, she's always on our case. Christopher chuckles. Yeah, she can be a bit much. A bit. She's a freaking nightmare. He goes quiet for a moment. She wasn't always like this. I look at him, surprised. What do you mean? After my dad left, she changed. Became harder, I guess, trying to protect herself. I hadn't thought about it like that before. still doesn't give her the right to be such a bi. Language, boys, Darla yells from the window. We both burst out laughing. Later that night, we're in my room, sprawled on the floor with controllers in hand. So Christopher says, eyes on the screen, "What was your mom like?" The question catches me off guard. She was amazing, kind, funny, always knew how to make me feel better. Christopher nods. Sounds great. Yeah, I say, throat tight. She was. We play in silence for a while. Then Christopher speaks again. "I'm sorry you lost her, man? Really?" I pause the game, looking at him. "Thanks, Chris." It's the first time I've called him that. He smiles, and suddenly I feel like maybe I'm not so alone in this mess after all. As we resume playing, I realize something's changed. Christopher's not just my stepbrother anymore. He's becoming a friend. Weeks fly by, and Chris and I are practically inseparable. We're in my room one night, sprawled on the bed, talking about everything and nothing. "Man, Darla was on a rampage today," I groan, rubbing my temples. Chris chuckles. "Tell me about it." I thought she was going to burst a blood vessel. Our eyes meet, and suddenly the air feels different, charged. "Hey," Danny, Chris says, voice low. "Yeah." He hesitates. "Have you ever, thought about guys?" My heart races. "What do you mean?" Chris shifts closer. "I mean like this." Before I can react, his lips are on mine. It's soft, tentative, but it sends electricity through my body. I pull back, breathless. "Chris, Shit, I'm sorry," he starts, but I cut him off with another kiss. This time, it's deeper, more urgent. His hands tangle in my hair, and I grip his shirt, pulling him closer. When we finally break apart, we're both panting. "Wow," I whisper. Chris grins. "Yeah, wow." "So, what does this mean?" I ask, suddenly nervous. He takes my hand, intertwining our fingers. "It means I like you, Danny, a lot." I can't help but smile. "I like you too." We spend the rest of the night talking, kissing, exploring this new dimension of our relationship. It's exciting, terrifying, and absolutely perfect. As dawn breaks, Chris sneaks back to his room. I lie in bed, my lips still tingling from his kisses, feeling happier than I have in months. But a nagging thought creeps in. What will happen when Darla and Dad find out? I push it aside. For now, I just want to bask in this moment in the warmth of newfound love. Chris and I have been sneaking around for weeks, stealing kisses when no one's looking. It's exhilarating but nerve-wracking too. Today, we're in my room. Chris has me pinned to the bed, his lips on my neck. "God, Danny," he breathes, "you drive me crazy." I pull him closer, my hands slipping under his shirt, and do something about it. He grins, leaning in for a kiss. That's when we hear it. "Christopher." We freeze. It's a girl's voice, coming from the hallway. "Shit," Chris mutters, jumping off me. The door bursts open. A blonde girl stands there, her eyes widening as she takes in the scene. "What the fuck?" she spits out. Chris goes pale. "Michael, I can explain." "Explain," she screeches. "Explain how you're making out with this rich brat." I sit up, confused and angry. "Who the hell are you?" She laughs bitterly. "I'm his girlfriend, or at least I thought I was." The world stops. I turn to Chris' girlfriend. He looks panicked. "Danny, it's not." "Save it," I snap, getting off the bed. "How could you?" Michael is still ranting. "I've been trying to reach you for weeks, and this is what you've been doing." Chris tries to grab my arm. "Please, let me explain." I jerk away from him. "Explain what?" "How you've been lying to me. Playing me." "No, it's not like that." "Both of you, get out," I say, my voice shaking. Michael storms out, but Chris hesitates. "Danny, please." Out I yell. As the door slams behind them, I sink to the floor, my heart shattering into a million pieces. How could I have been so stupid? I hear raised voices from downstairs, Michael yelling, Chris pleading. Then a door slams and silence falls. I sit there, numb, as the reality sinks in. The one person I thought I could trust was just another lie. The house is too quiet. It's been 3 days since the shitstorm with Michaela, and I haven't left my room except to piss. There's a knock at the door. "Daniel, it's Dad's son. We need to talk." I ignore him, burying my face in the pillow. The door opens anyway. "This has gone on long enough," Dad says, his voice firm. I sit up, glaring. "What do you want?" He sighs, sitting on the edge of my bed. "Chris told me what happened." "Great," I spit out. "So you know your wife's son is a lying piece of—" "Daniel," he cuts me off. "I know you're hurt, but—" "Hurt," I laugh bitterly. "I'm fucking devastated, Dad, and you want to know the worst part. I thought he cared about me." Dad's quiet for a moment. Then, "He does care, Daniel. He's been a mess these past few days." "Good," I mutter, but my heart clenches. "He wants to explain," Dad says softly. "Will you let him?" I shake my head. I can't. I can't see him right now. Dad nods, standing up. Okay, but you can't hide in here forever. As he reaches the door, I speak up. Dad? Can you? Can you send him away? What? Chris, I want him gone. Please. Dad looks at me for a long moment, then nods. If that's what you want. An hour later, I hear a car start up outside. I peek through the curtains, watching Chris load his bags into the trunk. He looks up at my window, his face a mask of misery. For a second, our eyes meet. Then I let the curtain fall, turning away. As the car drives off, I feel a mixture of relief and emptiness. Chris is gone, just like I wanted. So why does it feel like I've made a terrible mistake? It's been 2 weeks since Chris left. 2 weeks of me moping around the house, snapping at everyone. Even Darla's stopped trying to boss me around. I'm lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, when there's a knock at my door. Would I groan? Dad pokes his head in. Hey kiddo, can we talk? I shrug, and he takes it as a yes, sitting on the edge of my bed. You know, he starts. When your mom died, I thought I'd never be happy again. I tense up. We never talk about mom. But then I met Darla, he continues. And yeah, she's not perfect, but she made me realize it was okay to love again. What's your point, Dad? I mutter. He sighs. My point is, sometimes we push away the people we care about because we're scared of getting hurt again. I sit up, anger flaring. Chris hurt me, Dad. He lied to me. Did he, Dad asks gently? Or did you not give him a chance to explain? The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I remember Chris's face that day, pleading with me to listen. I start, but the words get stuck in my throat. Dad pats my knee. It's not too late, to hear him out. As he leaves, I grab my phone. There are dozens of missed calls and texts from Chris. I start scrolling through them. Danny, please let me explain it wasn't what you think. I miss you. The last one, sent just yesterday. I still love you. My heart races. I hit the call button before I can chicken out. It rings once, twice. Danny, Chris's voice is hesitant, hopeful. I take a deep breath. Hey Chris, I think we need to talk. It's Chris's birthday tomorrow, and I've got a plan. After our phone call, we've been talking every day, but it's not enough. I need to see him. Dad, I say over breakfast, I want to throw Chris a surprise party. Dad nearly chokes on his coffee. You what? I explain my plan, words tumbling out in a rush. To my surprise, Dad's on board. I'll call him, invite him over, he says, a smile tugging at his lips. The next 24 hours are a whirlwind. Darla, shockingly, helps with the decorations. Maybe she's not so bad after all. As evening approaches, my nerves are shot. What if he doesn't come? What if he's moved on? Then I hear a car pull up. He's here, Dad whispers, ushering everyone into position. The front door opens. Hello, Chris's voice echoes through the house. I step out from my hiding spot. Surprise, I say softly. Chris freezes, his eyes wide. Danny? Before I can respond, everyone jumps out, shouting surprise. Chris looks overwhelmed, his gaze darting around before settling back on me. As the party gets going, I pull Chris aside. Can we talk? We slip out to the backyard, the music from inside fading. I can't believe you did this, Chris says, his voice thick with emotion. I take a deep breath. Chris, I'm sorry. I should have let you explain about Michaela. He shakes his head. No, I'm sorry. I should have told you about her from the start. She's my ex, Danny. We broke up months ago, but she couldn't accept it. Relief washes over me. So, you're not? No, he says firmly. There's only you, Danny. It's always been you. I step closer, my heart pounding. I love you, Chris. I was an idiot to send you away. His hand cups my face. I love you too. God, I've missed you. As our lips meet, I know this is it. This is where I belong. The party's winding down, but Chris and I are still in our own little world. We're curled up on the porch swing, my head on his shoulder, his arm around me. So Chris murmurs, what happens now? I look up at him, tracing the line of his jaw with my finger. Now we do this right. He raises an eyebrow. Oh yeah. And what does right look like? Instead of answering, I kiss him. It's slow, deep, full of promise. When we break apart, both breathless, I whisper, it looks like this. Chris grins, pulling me closer. I like the sound of that. Just then, the porch light flicks on. We jump apart like guilty teenagers. Boys, it's Darla, of all people. Everything okay out here? I brace for the worst, but to my surprise, she's smiling. Yeah, Chris says, taking my hand, everything's perfect. Darla's eyes flick to her intertwined fingers. She nods, her expression softening. Good, don't stay up too late. As she heads back inside, Chris and I exchange shocked looks. Did that just happen? I ask. Chris laughs, shaking his head. I guess miracles do happen. We settle back into the swing, the night wrapping around us like a blanket. You know, I say, I never thought I'd be happy again after Mom died. But now, oh, Chris kisses the top of my head. Now. I smile, snuggling closer. Now I've got you, and it feels like coming home. Home, Chris repeats, his voice warm. I like that. And as we sit there, wrapped in each other's arms, I realize something. This house, once filled with pain and loss, is starting to feel like home again. And with Chris by my side, I'm ready to face whatever comes next. The next morning, I wake up to the sound of hushed arguing. I creep down the stairs, heart racing when I hear my name. Can't let Daniel throw his life away like this. It's Darla, her voice sharp. Keep your voice down, Dad hisses. This isn't about us. I freeze on the bottom step, straining to hear. Not about us, Darla scoffs. They're just kids. Tom, they don't know what they're doing. They're old enough to make their own choices, Dad says firmly. And what about college? Daniel's future. There's a long pause. Then Dad sighs. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I step into the kitchen, making both of them jump. Morning. Dad forces a smile. Hey, kiddo, sleep well? I nod, eyeing Darla warily. Her face is flushed, eyes narrowed. Daniel, she starts. But Dad cuts her off with a look. We should talk, he says to me. About you and Chris. My stomach drops. What about us? Dad takes a deep breath. We just want to make sure you've thought this through. I thought with her, I snap. Being happy. It's not that simple, Darla interjects. You're both so young. And what I challenge. Gay. The kitchen goes silent. I've never said it out loud before. Dad reaches for me, but I step back. I love him, I say, my voice shaking. And if you can't accept that, then what, Darla demands. You'll run away together. The idea hits me like a lightning bolt. Why not? Before I can respond, the back door opens. Chris walks in, freezing when he sees us all. A bad time. I grab his hand, pulling him close. No perfect timing, actually. Looking straight at Dad and Darla, I say, we're together. Deal with it. Then I drag Chris upstairs, slamming my bedroom door behind us. What was that about? Chris asks, eyes wide. I kiss him hard, pouring all my fear and anger into it. When we break apart, I whisper, let's get out of here. Chris blinks. What, like now? I nod, already grabbing a backpack. Right now. As I start throwing clothes in, Chris catches my arm. Danny, wait. Are you sure about this? I look at him, really look at him. Am I sure? No, but I'm sure about him. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. We've been on the road for 3 days, sleeping in Chris's beat-up car and living off gas station snacks. The initial rush of freedom is fading, replaced by a gnawing worry. Chris, I mumble, half asleep in the passenger seat. Yeah, babe. Where are we even going? He's quiet for a moment, hands tightening on the steering wheel. I don't know. We pull into another rest stop. The neon lights harsh in the darkness. Chris kills the engine, and suddenly the silence is deafening. Maybe this was a mistake, I whisper. Chris turns to me, his eyes tired but determined. No, being with you is never a mistake. But I can see the doubt creeping in. We're running out of money and options. My phone buzzes. It's been doing that a lot, but I've been ignoring it. This time I look. It's Dad, I say, surprised. He wants to talk. Chris nods. Maybe you should? I step out of the car, heart pounding as I hit answer. Daniel, Dad's voice is tight with worry. Where are you? I don't know, I admit. Some rest stop. He sighs. Come home, son. Please. I can't, I choke out. You and Darla. We were wrong, he cuts me off. We shouldn't have reacted that way. Just come home. We'll figure this out together. I look at Chris through the windshield. He gives me a small nod. Okay, I whisper. We're coming home. As I slide back into the car, Chris takes my hand. You okay? I nod, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension. Yeah, let's go home. Chris starts the car, and as we pull back onto the highway, I realize something. Home isn't just a place. It's wherever Chris and I are together. And right now, we're heading towards a new chapter of our story, one where we don't have to run anymore. The driveway looks the same, but everything feels different as we pull up. Dad and Darla are waiting on the porch, their faces a mix of relief and anxiety. Chris squeezes my hand. You ready? I take a deep breath. As I'll ever be. We step out of the car, and suddenly Dad's rushing towards us. He pulls me into a tight hug, then, to my surprise, does the same to Chris. Thank God you're both safe, he mutters. Darla hangs back, wringing her hands. Boys, we're so sorry. We all move inside, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Dad clears his throat. We've been talking, he starts. And we realize we handled things poorly. Darla nods. We were scared. For you, for your futures, but we see now that pushing you away was the worst thing we could have done. I look at Chris, then back at them. So what now? Dad takes a deep breath. Now we start over, as a family, all of us. Really, Chris asks, his voice small. Darla steps forward, taking his hand. Really, we love you both, and we want you to be happy, together. I feel tears pricking my eyes, even if it's not conventional. Dad chuckles. Son, nothing about our family has ever been conventional. Why start now? For the first time in days, I feel the knot in my chest loosen. Chris wraps an arm around me and I lean into him. So I say we can stay. Together. Dad nods. You can stay. But there are going to be some ground rules. Chris and I exchange a look. It's not perfect, but it's a start. We can work with that, Chris says, and I nod in agreement. As we all settle in to talk, I realize that maybe, just maybe, we can make this work. Our unconventional, messy, beautiful family. Weeks have passed and things are different. Good different. Chris and I are officially a couple out in the open. No more sneaking around, no more lies. We're cuddled up on the couch, watching a movie with Dad and Darla, when Chris whispers, I never thought we'd have this. I squeeze his hand, smiling. Me neither. Just then the doorbell rings. Dad pauses the movie, frowning. Who could that be at this hour? He opens the door and my blood runs cold. It's Michaela. Where is he? She demands, pushing past Dad. Chris stands up, putting himself between her and me. Michaela, what are you doing here? She glares at him, then at me. I came to knock some sense into you. This isn't you, Chris, this fairy tale you're living. Hey, I start, but Chris holds up a hand. No, Danny, I need to handle this. He turns to Michaela. This is me, Michaela? The real me? I'm sorry I couldn't be honest with you before, but I am now. I love Daniel. Michaela's face crumples. But what about us? Everything we had. Chris shakes his head. We didn't have anything real. I was pretending to be someone I'm not. With Danny, I can be myself? I stand up, taking Chris's hand. Michaela's eyes narrow. She spits at me. You stole him. That's enough. Darla steps in, surprising us all. Chris made his choice. You need to respect that and leave. Michaela looks around, realizing she's outnumbered. This isn't over, she hisses before storming out. As the door slams, we all let out a collective breath. Well, Dad says, trying to lighten the mood. That was exciting. Chris turns to me, worry in his eyes. I'm so sorry, Danny, I didn't think she'd. I cut him off with a kiss. Hey, it's okay. We're in this together, remember. He smiles, pulling me close. Together. As we settle back onto the couch, I can't help but feel a mix of emotions. Relief that Chris stood up for us, fear of what Michaela might do next, but mostly pride. Pride in us, in our relationship, in our weird, wonderful family. Whatever comes next, we'll face it, together. It's graduation day. Chris and I stand side by side, gowns billowing in the warm June breeze. Dad and Darla are in the crowd, beaming with pride. As we wait for our names to be called, Chris leans in close. Can you believe we made it? I grin, squeezing his hand. Together, we can do anything. Daniel Matthews, the principal, announces. I walk across the stage, heart pounding. Christopher Lawson comes next. Chris takes his diploma, flashing me a wink. After the ceremony, we're swarmed by family. Dad pulls us both into a bear hug. I'm so proud of you boys, he says, voice thick with emotion. Darla's dabbing at her eyes. You've come so far. As we pose for pictures, I catch sight of a familiar face in the crowd. Michaela. She's watching us, her expression unreadable. Chris follows my gaze, tensing beside me, but then Michaela does something unexpected. She nods just once before turning and walking away. You okay? I ask Chris. He nods, a small smile on his face. Yeah, I think that was her way of letting go. As the sun starts to set, we gather for a celebratory dinner. Dad raises his glass. To Daniel and Chris, he says, may your future be as bright as you've made our lives. We clink glasses and I feel a lump in my throat. Looking around the table at this mismatched family we've built, I'm overwhelmed with love. Later, Chris and I sneak away to our spot on the porch swing. So he says, pulling me close, what's next for us? I think about the acceptance letters waiting in our rooms, the plans we've made, the dreams we share. Everything, I reply. As long as we're together. Chris kisses me soft and sweet. Always, he promises. As we sit there wrapped in each other's arms, I realize something. This journey from loss to love, from confusion to clarity, it's just the beginning. Our story isn't perfect. It's messy and complicated and real, but it's ours. And that's all that matters.